Okay.
All good.
Now we are here together with Nils Rosenblad. He's a designer for the kite foil equipment from Naish Kiteboarding, but you design not only the foils.
I signed on there as a windsurfing sail designer, and then I have a little bit of involvement with kites over the years. But yeah, I've been designing the foils, all the foils for Naish since we started making foils. So I started when we first started working with Kai Lenny and developing the very first surf foils at Naish, and then from there on.
You remember what was the first date? Where you started?
The first foils I designed were, I want to say, late 2015.
Yeah.
And then I think we put those into, it might even be earlier than that. It was really when Kai had done some foiling, and he came to us, and he had some ideas of his own. And I come from a background of boat design, or that was always my interest growing up before I became a sail maker and a windsurfer.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, let's do this. So
yeah, I think a lot of people will remember you as a sail designer.
Yeah, I still have a reputation there.
You have a big reputation in this.
But it's the same idea. It's flow. It's just having an understanding of how things flow, and making it work.
Yeah. Right now we have in the test, that's the reason why we do our Skype interview. We have this nice equipment from Naish Kiteboarding here, the new foils. Actually in the test it's a Freeride Foil in 810.
810.
That's a Freeride high performance wing. And the first thing we saw, it's super light.
Yeah, so we have gone back and we did some really basic engineering at Naish this year. We got a new a guy out of aerospace joined our design team, and he came in with a lot of concepts, one of which was that we could make an aluminum mass that was really light. So it could be light and fast and strong, and it's just how you use the materials. And the trick there was really coming up with these bonded ends that allow us to not carry unnecessary structure in the middle part of the mast. Okay. So we're really maximizing the potential of aluminum, which is, you can make a fairly high-tech boat mast out of aluminum. And it's pretty much the same thing here. And then now we're also we're working hard on pushing into carbon.
Yeah.
But so many of the carbon masts aren't really that light.
Yeah.
That makes it, the size of the mast, the smaller, you can make a smaller mast with carbon just because it is a higher modulus material.
Yeah.
But
it's also thin here, but it's, you know how millimeters? It's 16 or 15?
16.
16, okay. Yeah, it's amazing. It's pretty stiff. It's super light. It's like I think it's almost the same performance like a carbon mast, but even cheaper.
Yeah, the trade-off is that it's a little bit bigger, but at the same time, the aluminum masts actually have better torsional stiffness in twisting, which means the rider has a more direct drive control. So you gain something back even though you give something away. So it's not a bad trade-off.
So there's no wobbling here in this angle on something. It's
you can kind of think of it like a steering wheel. You're driving the foil with the board, and if that connection is solid and stiff in torsion, then you can really you move your foot a millimeter and make a precise adjustment, and you get a precise reaction. It's just like if your car, if it was a rubber band, you turn the wheel and the car would sort of aim vaguely towards the turn, but you're not going to win the Formula One that way.
Yeah. Right now, also in your range, right now I don't saw the quick release base again.
We still offer that as an accessory, but what we found was a lot of consumers just really like the basic 4-bolt connection.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was a compromise. I think that's something that we will continue to work on in the future, maybe to take it to the next level. But for now, the 4-bolt connection with the slots, you can leave the screws and the little slugs in the board, and it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
And people like that.
Yeah. The biggest thing it's a material from the wings, because we talked to the agent from Naish Kiteboarding in Germany, and he told us the wing it's made by UD carbon in, and it was a prepreg
Yes.
system. Two testers from us, they work also for Airbus, and they never saw something like that. Can you please explain what it is? Okay.
Well, there's the actual structure of the wing is UD carbon prepreg, but the very outside layer of the wing is just a chopped carbon, which has very, very high impact resistance. So it's kind of a protective layer.
Ah, okay.
And it's a little bit of a hitchhiker.
How do you do this?
It's done in a 10,000-pound steel mold. So it basically the top layer goes in as a prepreg chop, and then all the UD goes in for the structure, and then there's an expanding foam depending on the thickness of the wing. Yeah. And then we still spec all the pieces of carbon in the wing. So there's a whole, there's many layers. It's kind of built like a corner patch on a reinforcement patch on a sail with layers where you need them, and we take out carbon where you don't need it. We look at the flex of the tips, like how the twist characteristic. There's a lot of little tuning, and it's a dark science.
Okay. But you put the top sheet here. What you see, it's the carbon fiber. It's only the parts are maximum 2 centimeter. It is a complete layer in one, and you put it on and
that's a chop, and then that chop is made into a prepreg layer. So the prepreg is created before it goes into the mold, and that it's made under pressure, so it comes out very smooth. And then because the little rectangles kind of overlap, which creates a kind of structural cross-linking, which is good for impact, not for tensile strength, but we don't have any issues. Okay. So the idea was that you have this carbon wing. We're not racing with it necessarily, but we want people to be able to take their high performance equipment and still really push it hard. They're going to run into things, you're going to hit the bottom or what have you. And so we try to build in a little bit of resilience, just make them tough. Yeah. It's a technology that actually comes from stand-up paddleboarding, from the paddles. Yeah. Something we worked with a lot on paddle blades, and we started finding combinations that, this is light, it's strong, it's stiff, and you can hit it on something, and you don't need to go and repair it. Yeah, we can feel it. It's pretty stiff in the middle where the diameter is a bit more, and it's a bit flexible at the ends. And it's only the stabilizer you can twist much more than a laminated carbon stabilizer. Our stabilizer is also prepreg, but they're quite thin. It's like you see, it's much more twist than that. When you do it in UD carbon or something like that, it's much more stiffer. Is it a part of the construction or? It's part construction, just part of the geometry of the fin. So foils, we're basically using quite a bit of washout, and you can see the wing, just the whole philosophy of the way these foils are designed. As they load up, the pressure moves towards the center, which gives you just more balance and control. Okay. And then you almost can imagine that the wingtips are just you can imagine. I'm going to sound like a sail designer here, but it's similar to what's happening on a very small microscopic scale. The wingtips aren't very loaded when you're going, but they do twist a little bit, and there's a little dynamic component to that twist. So like an extreme load, rather than the wingtip catching and actually having a momentary flow separation or whatever, it can actually feather to align itself with the flow, and you're not really relying that for lift at speed anyway. I mean, you look at the lift coefficients of these wings and the speeds these guys are going. They're using at speed a little area in the middle of the wing. This much is doing 99% of the work, and the rest of it is we're trying to make it go away, less drag. But you can when you ride turns and you give a little bit more pressure on that, then you can feel it. You can feel the flex from that. Yeah, I mean, we're not seeing a lot of that, but I mean, I suppose if we made something really rigid, you would feel the difference between the rigid thing, but that's not necessarily going to get you where you want to go faster.
Yeah.
Sort of like not having suspension. So
Yeah.
it's a balance.
Yeah.
I mean, I would, if I was going to try to go 50 knots, I would be loading these things up with carbon.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to find is we're trying to find something that a guy can get on, and anyone from a decent intermediate to a really advanced rider, and just have a great experience. So it's sort of like we're aiming for that BMW in the middle, not the LaFerrari.
Yeah, that's true. From our side, thank you for the explaining the construction, because that's a very important thing. Because in the beginning we think that was only the material you can see, and that's
right.
We were wondering, hey, what's that? I never saw something like that before. Never saw it in an auto club or somewhere else, And it's I think it's very very good material. Not also for other companies probably have. Is this construction, normally we don't talk about prices, is the construction cheaper or is it the same price?
I mean, if you look at the amount of UD carbon and the way we use the materials, I can't imagine that our material cost is any less than anyone else's.
Okay.
Until you go to, for example, a solid carbon.
Yeah.
But we're still very weight conscious as well. So we're looking wherever we feel like we can use an expanding foam core, we'll do that until we get to the point where we have some kind of, tip loading or wing loading that requires more carbon. But we try to engineer it appropriately for what it's going to be used for.
Yeah.
And the compromise is always light weight versus stiffness.
Yeah. I think it's a big step for Naish kiteboarding to do the foils like this right now. It's much lighter than the old ones.
Yeah, we're very pleased. We had a hard time with our last wing. Was actually everybody loved that wing, and it was a difficult wing to beat. And really, I had to go back and kind of look at, okay, I'm doing a lot of other. The nice thing is I'm working on almost 4 distinct sports in foiling, so there's overlap. Mm-hmm. Like not every wing works for every service, but I definitely learned things, for example, from windsurfing and wing surfing that come into the kite foils. And here, this was something that was kind of driven by kite foiling just because we really wanted to beat our last wing.
Yeah.
It was some work. I made some really fast ones, but they were not ones you would want to give to your, average guy and just turn him loose. He would come back, just give it back, go, that's the fastest I ever went in my life. I want my old wing back. So we had to find the happy medium. Yeah. But in the end, we ended up with wings that have very, very good top speed potential.
Yeah, that's true. We also tested with the GPS, and it's pretty good. The last thing, it's about everybody is talking about wing boarding and wing surfing. Everybody's only talking about that.
Believe me, that's everywhere.
It's everywhere in the world, I think so. But you can talk about a bit the scene on Maui. I think there's somebody told me there nobody's windsurfing anymore, nobody's kite surfing anymore. Everybody is windsurfing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that doesn't change the validity of those sports. But I was the head designer at Neil Pride when. Mm-hmm. Kiting came, and I remember in the very late 90s going to Fiji with all of our windsurfing stuff, and here came the kite guys with a couple of backpacks and their boards under their arms, and we had coffin bags. I mean, I could have had an entire family in my bags of windsurfing equipment. And I remember just looking over at those guys in the airport and thinking, that's the future. But now I feel that way I'm seeing that with winging, because windsurfing still has advantages. One of the biggest advantages of windsurfing is that you can always get home. If everything goes to hell in your windsurfer, you're still on a board that's big enough to float you home. There's that, which is, I know it sounds basic, but at the same time, performance-wise, windsurfing has always been right in the ballpark. I mean, kiting has an edge at the bottom of the range, top of the range, who knows, but with windsurfing, it kind of checks all the boxes. It gets rid of all the hardware of windsurfing, the complication, and it gets rid of the strings and those components of kiting, and it all comes together in this sort of simple hybrid that's really enabled by foiling.
Yeah.
It would not. I mean, you would not want to wingsurf without foils. It'd be like,
it's boring.
Well, it just doesn't work. I mean, the thing about windsurfing and kites is they both produce an insane amount of horsepower for their size. That's what makes windsurfing fast. That's what makes kites fast. It's the power to weight ratio of those systems is huge, but as soon as you're on a foil, because your drag goes down, you have a much more elegant. You have basically a low.
It doesn't fit together
system.
if you have a slow board or something like that. You can connect it with a skateboard or a foil, but these are these two parts. You know, then it's a harmonious game together. Then it's
a foil is much closer to a skateboard or like being on ice. It's that magic, and the ice guys have had wings like this for years.
Yeah, I think so. I think we will wait. What happened in the Alps in this winter? What you can do with that, or what we can do all over. That's apart from other things. But I think it will be grow up also with snowboarding and skiing and everything a lot.
I think there'll be a component for sure.
Yeah.
Anything you can slide on relatively easily is going to be somebody's going to put a wing on it.
Yeah. You have you built also two new wings for wing foiling, foil surfing, downwind, and everything. Can you talk about a bit over the philosophy, over the wing foils that you make? You make it more. I only see the graphic here right now. You give more high aspect foils.
Yeah, you can imagine that you're working at basically there's just less available horsepower, so you're really looking on a kite foil. We're looking at not even launching, but we're looking at control, we're looking at drag reduction, and we're looking at offsetting the tremendous lateral force that comes out of a kite, right? The lower you fly the kite, the more leeway resistance, and that's why you have to cant and all those things, but the foil needs to be able to handle those very high loads. On a wing foil, the highest load the foil ever really handles is the combined weight of the rider and the board minus whatever small amount of vertical lift that you get from holding the wing. So you're never going into those extreme loading situations. And the result is we're making more of a glider. So it's something that has a long glide ratio. It's higher aspect for lower induced drag. Yes, we would like to reduce drag, but we need to have enough lift so you can easily get up with not a lot of horsepower. So the parallels between that and foil surfing there's a lot of parallels, with the advantage that the wing surfer doesn't even have to carve on a wave, really. It needs to be able to turn nicely and be balanced and controlled, but you can surf them. It turns out the high aspect foils surf great, but we didn't really see that coming.
Yeah.
We really started with it. Guys wanted to do downwind runs on a stand-up board, and they didn't want to drop off because if they did, it was miserable. Yeah. But we made high aspect wings very similar to what we're making now in 2017 and 2018, but we didn't have the skill set. Nobody was good enough, and people are like, well, they have their moments, but that's just not it. But now that's what's happening. It's high aspect wings, and the new ones they're more user friendly. I mean, I think people can get right on for windsurfing, depending on how much wind they have. Medium size high aspect wing is the way to go, because you just want to get up. Once you're up.
Yeah, cool. So we will see. Probably we get some for our tests, and then we can make a review over it. And but the thing with the material, it sounds great in this moment. And right now, I have to say thank you very much, Nils.
Thank you.
And good luck on Maui. Is there also a big problem with Corona on the Hawaiian Islands?
We are having periodic issues with it. We're having a little bit of a cluster now. We obviously did not get hit like Europe or the East Coast of the US, but we've been very lucky just because it came from east to west, so we're sort of at the end of the chain. But you know, at any day it could go wrong. I mean, for me right now, the biggest issue with Corona is I'm on the design team at American Magic for the America's Cup, and I'm supposed to be commuting to Auckland, and I can't because we're just not welcome anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's sad. But you know, we're managing. It's an island, so we're doing everybody's doing their best to just take care of each other and control it.
But you have no restrictions to go that you don't go on the water. You don't have to go on the water.
The worst we had was the beaches were shut, but you could still drive to the beach and go directly to the water and go surf as long as you were.
Okay, perfect.
Because you know, whatever you can do for people not to go completely crazy is super important for crises.
Yeah.
But you know, no one really knew what was coming, and we're still just sort of unpacking it.
Hope for, in this case, hope for better times.
Yeah, I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping to make it over to Lake Garda for Foil Week one of these years, but it won't be this one.
So cool. Nice to hear from you from that side. And we will do right now a small movie out of it and show to our spectators.
Awesome.
I think the people will love it. To hear.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
To hear all this information directly from you.
Yeah, and you know, it's winging. It's going to be kiting, winging, and it's all converging though. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All these years of here's windsurfing and here's kiting, and now it's just coming into this perfect synergy that it's a really, really nice solution.
I think so too.